and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers and all you divine lovers of life. So this is a special Easter light activation video I wanted to share with all of you. I have channeled this activation on Easter Sunday, which, because I'm not a part of the traditional, religion, I'm not sure how it all goes, throughout the days. But I want to explain how this works from a spiritual hierarchy of light, and how this light of resurrection envelops the whole planet and humanity during this time, and why we don't always understand as humans that that immense divine light dispensation also will always trigger with it that which lives as in separated from divine light of source. So there were certain events, a day before Easter Sunday, that I channeled this beautiful activation that led me into a weird state, because something happened around, the building where I live. And certain triggers came, and I wasn't really aware what's happening. So throughout the whole night, I had weird dreams, of these like parasitic, it's like little parasites, little creatures were trying to, penetrate through into the space, and we needed to cleanse them, and I needed to wash them off my hair. And, the message was very obvious about this parasitic energy. And the day later when I woke up, as I'm doing nowadays very regularly, as much as I can, through this principle of understanding that divine light is stronger than any other force, as you know, in this world. People are getting crazier by the minute, if you're noticing. Things are amplifying, situations are increasing. People are talking about things, and it's all getting very, very amplified. So from the perspective, held from the connection with our spiritual hierarchy and the family of light, we will always be focused on that light and holding that intention of Divine Mother of Source, Divine Mother of Light, and therefore the resurrection of our Christ of Flames. And this is, as you know, was topic of so many coming weeks that actually led from the equinox portal to this Easter gateway. And the thing is that we often forget as humans how powerful we are when we engage with the activities of light, because they will amplify that divine sovereignty within us, and they will kind of like hold us in this higher state of consciousness through which not a lot will be able to penetrate. So the things that do penetrate our reality, as you know, always do so for a reason. And in my case, these reasons are always triggers so that I can share these messages with my group and the group collective I'm meant to share a light of illumination and the sacred knowledge, and how can we become empowered source beings yet again. And although there's also lots of madness happening at the same time, and people are sending me all these kind of things and information, or look at what these people are saying, or look at what people are saying, or about you, or things like that, I am, from this space of higher consciousness, really guided to leave all that behind, because I've done my work in terms of that dark integration into the light. I've shared all I could on that level, but I was guided and just had this meditative walk today by my sacred river, and Spirit was showing me how now it's important to let that go and develop naturally, because it's continuously going to happen. It's happening, it's ongoing, and it's happening at the world at large. But when we tune into the nature of our sacred space, these things are no longer invited as parts of our reality, which means we've shed light, we've brought things into perspective, we've shed awareness, we've gained wisdom from that, we shared it with our group. And then the final step, as Spirit shared with me, is the letting go. So the activation that came as divine dispensation of light, as a sacred offering from divine mercy and grace, was about this receptivity through the higher spirit attunement, which I call the light of Holy Spirit, life force of all life, and just opening that gateway and merging the inner light of our inner union with the light of Spirit of all. And once we do so, I was shown that never again will dispensations of light, or when you have a prayer or you ask for something or you receive a blessing, will be perceived as they're coming from the outside, because they will unify as that activity of light and merging, emerging and then merging within your own self, working through life force empowerment. And this is what this sacred chalice resurrection is all about. Remember, just a few days ago I shared about the resurrection of the rose, and because we did that in our bodies, those of you who did that, if you haven't done yet already, I advise you, if you're called, to just take a look. If it resonates with your heart, I shared a sacred cosmic rose resurrection and cosmic Christ light activation, which, like I said, it was beautiful because when I created it, it was exactly 33 minutes long, and 33 seconds before I edited. So, my dears, this is an intense time, and I want us to do this activation out together. Besides all the work I'm doing with my current Cosmic Computing course, sometimes we're like focused like this, and then Spirit said, yeah, but we want to add this as well because it's important. And I feel this activation is one of those things, because a lot of people were sharing as well via comments how they felt an immense shedding during this Easter portal. And what happened was, I received a message, and I shared it on Easter Sunday, about this process of karmic dissolution and karmic cleansing or purging, because whenever this happens, remember, the activity of light will always release this immense potency into the strata of our planet Earth and into our human collective. But we will each receive it on the level where we are at, and sometimes it will be a collective trigger for us to share, those of us who are acting as guides, as guideposts, and sharing about the new consciousness, leading us to be the new humans. And sometimes people will shed their own things and sometimes not. And therefore, Spirit was showing me how these forces of darkness are trying to liberate themselves, or like calling up for that liberation. And this is what this activation assists, this process. And what we many times call the demonic, the so-called demonic or evil energies. In fact, what they truly are, and you have to understand this from a higher perspective, is from the perspective of creation and creation white light. These aspects are aspects that have so deeply went into the separation from source that they've started to exist as separate individuals, but without the source light penetrating through them. So in a way, they've negated the source aspect within them to the degree that they become deeply malfunctioning or distorted and so deeply densified. And that's why we sometimes say, well, when these energies come up, the way they react to the light, if you really have the light and you're constantly acting as a channel of divine light, as this beautiful pure vessel, and you say, well, why am I being triggered? And sometimes people, will bring those energies that they're going to try to penetrate through people or world events. It doesn't matter. But what is important is that you will see why this is happening at the bigger level, because every time, I've explained this before, it is like an injection of light that triggers immense new levels of self-mastery and profound wisdom in the way we integrate this light from a higher knowing, from a space of higher light. So we are always assisted from on high through our family of light and the spiritual divine hierarchy. But there is a new sovereign emerging within us, which is now creating what we know as a co-creation with Holy Spirit and all of the light. So it's no longer we are just the channel, but we are now the co-creator as that pure channel. And that's why a lot of people are now noticing the connection with their guides, or whatever it is, it's kind of like dissolving a bit. It feels like it's getting more elusive in a way, and that all serves a purpose. And they're kind of withdrawing energy so that people can walk into their own mastery and do their own work of light. So this is what I wanted to share, but I want us to start with the activation work. It's a very simple activation. Through this activation, we're actually working with the light of Holy Spirit as an opening to that gateway of what we call divine mercy, divine grace, to really receive, because there's always this light of divine dispensation, but not every person will be open to receive it. So when we open to receive that, we're going to create that space. We'll be nested around this experience, so that we'll create a safe space of that releasing, and then we will release all of those aspects that we would call devilish, demonic, separate from source, evil, whatever, it doesn't matter. But all those aspects we're going to create a vessel for that release. We're going to work with the sacred violet fire of resurrection and transmutation as well for our work in physical transfiguration, as you know it. And then we will actually create the space of the sacred chalice that will now, you know, as the sacred rose was resurrecting, now there will be a descent. This is a continuation, of course. There will be a descent of the sacred chalice. It will come through the sovereignty of the Holy Spirit. It will trigger our own inner sovereignty. It will move from our crown to our base, and then we'll lift, we will resurrect it back up, because we need to start learning to do that. Instead of just receiving the light, we're resurrecting the light within us so that it's creating a light of illumination and increasing light quotient in our bodies. Because ascension is not, as you know, an upward journey. You're receiving the light. You are in need to descend and integrate that light and then illuminate through it. And this is what this activation helps us to achieve. So if you're ready, we'll begin. So I would also just ask you to, you know, just really release that control of, wow, what the darkness is doing in our world, what is happening, who's saying what, needing to know everything about what's happening in the world. We've done our share of that throughout many years. It's now time to step up, to be ready to integrate higher levels of light at this point. And this is just what comes through my own spirit channel for those of you who are at this level of working through spirit. If you feel you still need lots more information, go follow that path. Of course, I'm not negating anyone's own guidance, but I'm saying for those of you who feel called, just drop the need to control everything and allow that trust into spirit and that divine grace and mercy to just work through you, because you are simply acting as a higher agent of light. Okay, so let us begin. Prepare now your sacred space. Wherever you are, may it be comfortable, may it be nourishing, may it be deeply supportive. May you feel held within the light of one, within the light of unity. If you feel so called, may you call for the assistance of your family of light or your light team and all the spiritual hierarchy to be with you, to be with us here and now. And now let us begin. In the name of I Am, through my own individualized I Am presence, I now invoke the light of Holy Spirit in full assistance, divine support, and dispensation of divine light. I ask for the mother flame of resurrection to be with me now at all times, as I go deeper into embracing unity consciousness through the cosmic Christ principle of life and creation. Now feel the white flame of creation to wash over you as you feel unified with all aspects of life. Within all life, within this beautiful white light of creation, you suddenly see a symbol of Holy Spirit, which is often given to us or gifted upon us as the white holy dove of Holy Spirit. Now you see that dove reaching for your consciousness and preparing it or elevating it to reach higher states of divine vision and clarity. And as you follow the spiraling movement of that celestial bird of liberation and freedom in unity consciousness of ascension, you know, follow it into this immense beauty and something that you could only fathom as divine mercy, divine grace. And now you see this beautiful white dove of Holy Spirit opening with its presence this divine gateway into the celestial realms of illumination. And for this moment of complete clarity, when you gaze upon this light of illumination, it becomes crystalline clear to you why you are here, who you are, at the subtle level of your reality and your physical embodiment. You take a moment now to just feel into the state of divine grace, mercy, and compassion for all. For you will be ready now to descend that light of illumination through your physical embodiment. And now you see through that opening a beautiful celestial bird of Holy Spirit representation, flying now, descending So as it was ascending, it is now descending. And as it descends, it carries this energetic potency of the white light of creation. And it wraps it around your entire auric body or your etheric field in a pulsating, rotating motion until you feel fully engulfed and surrounded by the beauty of this cotton-like or foam-like, cocoon-like feeling of being really nested and safe in this white light of the celestial realms and the white light of creation and illumination. As you feel the sacred space created within you, you now turn your presence and focus inward. You might start to rotate or to spin or to just really deeply feel the gratitude for all life. And in this space, when you really feel safe, look around your column, your transparency, because at this time, it is becoming of utmost importance to become as transparent as we can, to be of the world, in the world, but not to be of the world is the right way to say that. It is becoming so important to establish that transparency of divine grace, trust, and wisdom. And so as you look around your sacred space from within, notice any discordancies and energetic patterns or structures that do not belong to your natural field of resonance that is aligned with your own embodiment and vibratory existence. Now look around and imagine that you are now completely able to see all these aspects that are wanting to come and be liberated. And you feel yourself almost like you are gathering them together, pulling them together. And now you visualize a crystalline clear vessel, like a container, in which you start picking up and putting all those pieces. You might even visualize them in a certain way. You might see them as certain parasites or worms or creatures of the dark, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because you now feel completely safe to work within these aspects without any fear, judgment, and compassion, because you're completely nested and held in safety through a cocoon of white light of creation through Holy Spirit. And so as you see now yourself gathering all these aspects into this crystal bowl, you look around your space again and just zoom in if there's anything else left. Just pile it up into this one container of light. And now as you do so, take a deep breath. And with the out breath, I want you to release this container, lift it up, and feel yourself as you're making a sacred offering to Spirit. And at first you might say, well, how is this vessel full of these things a divine offering? And imagine that to Spirit, all is a gift, all is an offering. And when you have that divine perspective and clarity, you're deeply willing to surrender and let go through that liberation stage, because you're co-creating with Spirit. You're not simply of Spirit, you're constantly co-creating with Spirit. And lifting therefore life to a new level of higher consciousness each time you engage within the activities of life. As you move your sacred container upwards, as you imagine yourself surrendering that to Spirit, you suddenly see an outpouring of light from on high, full of this celestially sparkly, clear, violet sacred fire of resurrection, of transformation, transmutation, and transfiguration, which shines into your bowl of light. And all of the celestial realms and all that we know as fully illumined cooperates, because you are now in co-creation with Spirit. And you simply see this outpouring of the sacred violet fire into this crystalline container. As you do so, it might take a while for you to really feel into the process. You might take a few deep breaths into the crystalline bowl, until you will feel that the sacred violet fire has transmuted all. And you will know that because your inner vision will now show you a completely different picture. And what you now see is a container full of something that you would say it no longer has structure. It is simply transparent. It is almost like it has gone from a gross, dense matter structure to an ethereal form, and you only see sparkles of luminous light and transparency in this crystalline bowl. Now when you see that, all of a sudden you see that Holy Spirit or divine celestial bird starts to pour from on high sacred divine water, which is known as holy water of divine baptism, and it pours it into this crystalline bowl to create this almost like an immaculate conception essence that creates a fusion or divine alchemy with the transparent particles that are now in this container of light. And now you see this as sparkling crystalline water that becomes a divine birthing result of this union, of this co-creation with Spirit. And as you see that, because you're still holding that bowl above your head, when it's fully crystalline and transparent, you're now ready to descend that sacred chalice of crystalline light through your central column, through your ascension pillar. And what you now do is you see it entering through your crown, moving through your heart, igniting your sacred three-folded flame, and moving now deep into your base, into your root chakra, into the final grounded vortex perspective of your earthly embodiment. And what you will do now is the most important step of you co-creating with Spirit. So you're actually in co-creation with life. So this is where you will feel that you're not just connected with Spirit or receiving divine light from on high, but that you yourself are an initiator or a resurrecting force of life that will co-create this process of illumination within your own physical template. And so what you now do, you visualize from your root chakra, your base, which starts to pulsate as it's, that sacred divine chalice is seated within it. It creates this crystalline template foundation. And from that foundation, you now see a golden spiral of your own life force, of your own Holy Spirit embodiment, coiling around this sacred vessel and creating this golden, it's like a coalescing spiral until it envelops the entire chalice. And when you do so until it reaches a point of enough light quotient established from within, you see that divine spiral pulsating within you. You start now to resurrect this sacred chalice as the Holy Grail, moving from your base, because you're doing now this from your own life force in co-creation with the life force of all life, or Holy Spirit. And now you see that divine chalice resurrecting until it reaches the level of your cosmic heart. And now what you will see here is almost like a fountain of youth or a fountain of sacred water that starts to overflow. And why this is so is because your own inner resurrection flame that is now in your body as the seed of the I Am presence in your physical embodiment, and your co-creation with the inner flame of your life force, which consciously creates this overlighting experience in deep union. You will now feel this overflowing occurring in your Christed heart. And you might visualize within the very center of your heart a flame of illumination that propels this forward. And what it occurs is this fountain of sacred water is emerged within your Christed heart. So you can see water constantly recharging and rejuvenating itself and overflowing. And that is the true state of your Christed baptism, resurrected self, which means the return of the Holy Chalice in our physical form. So as we had the resurrection of the rose, now we have called for this experience of divine dispensation, divine grace returning into our physical bodies. And now we're deeply engaging with this process from the next level of embodiment, which is the return and the illumination of this sacred vessel of crystalline light. You might take a while to just breathe into your sacred cosmic heart, into this chalice of Holy Grail. Just feel the experience when you're overflowing. And at this level, You're ready to interact with all life and touch upon all life and interexchange with all life and all life forms at the level of the embodiment of the Holy Grail within you. So it is that state when everything is constantly recharging, rebalancing, returning into itself. It is the state of constant overflowing of the sacred force of life and the sacred water, which is the element of our cosmic compassion. And as we awaken that seed within us, we will feel those aspects that feel they exist separately from source and are deeply wounded, fragmented, and of course living in the dark. We will feel that our interaction with those aspects becomes more interesting of this higher process, divine light, and the receptivity through Holy Spirit. And it simply becomes more transparent in the way we function and we cooperate with any aspect that wants to penetrate sometimes into our sacred space. So take a while now to just sit in this space and imagine yourself from this cosmic heart space moving into your entire body. Your entire body is now overflooded with this holy chalice and the crystalline water, the pure waters of sacred baptism, known to us as the sacred cosmic Christ, but in human form, in human embodiment. And allow yourself to precipitate into infinity, into feeling that state of divine love, of gratitude, of divine mercy. Feeling the interconnectedness of divine dispensation of light and your own inner light resurrection to the life force mastery principle that you're consciously engaging with. And take a deep breath into this process, into this full knowing, into a state of your full liberation, and just feel gratitude where you are now and all that served you to become the embodiment of what you now are. In the name of I Am, thank you. Holy Spirit, the light of divine grace and divine love. So be it, and so it is.